Hi and welcome to another awesome video and welcome back to Greymere. Now in this video I want to have a look at genre and specifically how the genre impacts your writing. Today I want to explore what happens to the shape of your novel when the genre changes. If this is the first time we're meeting, I'm AKGuile. I'm an independent author and publisher. I've got one book finished and another well into production, and I'm writing under the pen name AKGuile. Before all of this, I spent my career as a business consultant, so I'm not an expert, I'm not a guru, I'm just a bloke sharing what's working for me as I learn this. If you find something useful here, or if you disagree, if you've got a different point of view, get involved in the conversation below. And while you're there, give me a like and a subscribe and help me to grow the channel. Let's get into this. Let's start on familiar ground, the Johnny Steele novels. They're noir crime fiction. They're dark, they're sharp, they're relentless. And the emotional driver is tension, suspense, uncertainty, and dread. The constant feeling that something is about to break. In the last video, we discussed this arc, so I'll go through it quickly to refresh your memory. The prologue spikes tension. Something happens that the reader doesn't understand. Act 1 introduces characters and the world at a lower tension point, building steadily so we get to know them. Then the false peak arrives when the reader thinks they've got it all figured out, and that's the point where I shatter it completely. The midpoint reversal lands, the full weight of the problem is visible. Act 3 drives towards the climax where everything resolves, and then the epilogue reopens the story for the next book. Each Johnny Steele novel follows this same structure. The case changes, the characters it play changes, the layer of corruption being unpicked changes, but the emotional driver is always the same, driven by tension. Now, when you choose a genre, you're making a contract with your reader. When somebody picks up a noir crime novel, they're expecting tension, investigation, consequences. When somebody picks up a romance, they're expecting connection, betrayal, resolution. The genre is a promise, and if you position a hard-nosed crime novel as romance, you're going to break the contract with your reader. The reader will feel cheated. The reviews will be bad. Not because the book is bad, but because the book they were told they were going to get isn't the book that I actually got. So the genre isn't just about what you write, it's about what the reader expects when they pick up your book. And it's up to us as authors to honour that contract. So the question becomes, what happens when we change genres and therefore change contracts? To put it bluntly, you have to deliver something very different for your readers. Now, to show you what I mean, I'm planning at some point in the future to write some historical fiction. The working title is Building Greymere, and I'm planning that out now. But it's going to follow one family, starting with a man called Alderin, who arrives in the Greymere Valley after the Norman conquest in 1069. And it will track his descendants across roughly 30 generations all the way through to the modern day where we meet Johnny Steele. The city will grow around them, the lake stays the same, three sources of power will be involved, the landed gentry, the trades and the church, and this will form a triangle that tilts differently for each era. Now, each book is going to be constrained to one life, one generation, one historical pressure point, and each book will have its own three-act structure. Same three acts, same structural shape as before, but the genre is completely different from the crime novels. This is historical fiction, not crime fiction. Now, I think the emotional journey is going to look something like this. The prologue in a Building the Greymere book isn't a confusion spike designed to grab you. It will be an historical moment, something that's about to arrive and change everything. The harrying of the North, the Black Death, the dissolution of the monasteries. The reader knows or senses that the pressure is coming before the characters do. And that's a different kind of tension. It's not mystery, it's inevitability. Now, Act 1 introduces the generation, the family as they are, the city as it stands. The reader settles into this world the way the characters live in it, daily life, relationships, the power dynamics between the three lines. The emotional driver here isn't suspense, it's investment. The reader is being asked to care about these people and this place before the pressure arrives. And because these words are alien to us, 1067, a valley in northern England, customs and power dynamics we've never experienced, that investment takes time. So Act 1 needs to be longer than it would be in a crime novel, because if the reader doesn't deeply care about these people when the historical event lands, then nobody will care. Now, Act 2 is where the historical event actually lands. The crisis hits, the power triangle tilts, the family is forced to adapt or break, and the peaks in Act 2 aren't sharp spikes like the crime novels, they're broader, they're heavier, sustained pressure rather than sudden revelation. The midpoint isn't a twist where the reader's theory collapses, it's a moment where the full weight of history arrives and the reader understands what it's going to cost. And Act 2 is shorter than in the crime novels because the historical event is an impact, not an investigation. History is doing the heavy lifting for us. Now, Act 3 is the aftermath. The family survives, changed, either diminished or strengthened, but they survive. The resolution leaves us with the next generation beginning to emerge. A child, a marriage, a new arrangement that carries the family line forward into whatever comes next. And that thread connects to the next book. Act 3 is longer than Act 2 because rebuilding takes time. You need to resettle the reader in the new generation and show them something worth caring about as they move forward. So the weighting is completely different from the crime novels, where crime runs roughly a quarter, a half, a quarter across the acts, with the disruption dominating. I think that the historical fiction puts the weight in Act 1. The investment is the engine. Something closer to half the book is Act 1. Shorter Act 2, where the crisis lands, then a longer Act 3 to rebuild it. The shape is wider, it's slower, it's heavier than the crime arc. The peaks are broader. The valleys aren't about misdirection here, they're about daily life getting disrupted. And the emotional driver isn't tension in the crime sense. I think it's something more like consequence. Watching what history does to people you care about in a place built across centuries. The reader invests in the family, watches the pressure build and feels the weight of it arrive, and then watches how the family endures. Now, just for kicks, I'm writing a series of novellas called Ellen's Story. It's set in the same city, in the same world, but it's a different genre again. It's a tragic romance. If you're interested, the first novella is available for free when you sign up over at AKGuile.com. Plug. Ellen Reed is the woman who will become Ellen Steele, Johnny's wife, and her novella covers 3 6-month periods of her life. The first novella is the first 6 months, arriving in Greymere, settling in, finding her feet, and starting to build a new life. The second novella, the second 6 months, is her getting to know Johnny, the relationship building, the connection deepening, everything moving towards something good. And then the third novella, the final 6 months, is a tragedy. Greymere's crime network closing in around her, the investigation that costs her absolutely everything. Now, each of these novellas has its own internal story. The first one is a crime arc. Ellen unpicks a fraud. It stands alone. A reader who picks it up gets a complete crime story true to that genre. But across all the 3 novellas, the genre is something entirely different. It's a love story. It's a tragic love story, but it's a love story. The macro arc across the 3 novellas looks something like this. It follows a tragic romance shape. Act 1, the first novella, is hope, arriving somewhere new, finding a connection, building a sense of belonging. The emotional driver is warmth and possibility. Act 2, the second novella, is all about love, the relationship deepening, the connection growing, building towards an emotional peak. The emotional driver is the connection and the intimacy. The peaks aren't sharp spikes, they're gradual swells, moments of closeness rather than moments of revelation. And Act 3, the third novella, is tragedy, a sharp collapse, sudden devastation, and then the emotional cost of that collapse, which is where the crime series in Johnny Steele picks up. Hope, love, tragedy. That's a love story arc across 3 books. And because each novella is in effect 1 act, the weighting is equal, roughly a third. 3 books, 3 acts, even distribution. That's a completely different proposition from either the crime novels or the historical fiction novels. Now, what's making this fun to write is that each individual novella has its own genre inside it. Novella 1 is a crime arc. Novella 2 will be warmer, more of a relation arc. Novella 3 will be darker, closer to a thriller arc. As the walls close in, 3 standalone books, each with their own 3-act structure, each with their own genre driving the internal story, but the shape across all 3 books combined as a tragic love story. So I'm combining genres, crime inside love, thriller inside love. And this is something I'm beginning to see more and more and more in fiction. Love stories inside horror, crime threads inside romance, genre blending and layering on top of each other. The novella series is my playground for exploring that. Remember the genre contract I mentioned earlier on? The promise you make to the reader? My crime fiction and my historical novels have a contract with the readers because they're investing good time and money in these books, and I need to honour what those readers expect to get from those genres. But the novellas are free. They're available on the website for anybody who wants them. There's no contract to break. There's no expectations. It's a space to experiment with how genres combine and for me to learn from what works and what doesn't. So there you go, 3 examples, same author, same city, same 3-act structure underneath all of them, but 3 completely different emotional experiences for the reader. The crime novels driving tension, sharp spikes, deep valleys, the reader understanding being built and shattered. Historical fiction driving consequence, broader peaks, heavier pressure, the weight of history arriving and forcing people we love to change across the generations. And the novellas drive love and ultimately tragedy, warmer swells, deeper connections, and then loss. So I don't think genre changes the structure. My view is it changes the emotional driver inside the structure, and it changes the weighting. Which act carries the most important changes depending on which genre you're writing in. Crime puts it in Act 2, historical fiction puts it in Act 1, tragic love distributes it equally. The acts are still doing the same jobs: introducing, disrupting, and resolving. And once you begin to understand that, you can start to make deliberate choices about what your reader is feeling at each point of the book. Not just what happens, but what emotions is carrying them through. So in the next video, I want to have a look at world building, because the world your story lives in is not just a backdrop, he says in front of a backdrop. For me, it's everything. It's the thing that shapes what's possible inside the story. And for me, that world is Greymere, a city with its own geography, its own history, its own weather. The world is part of the story. It doesn't just sit behind it as a blank canvas. So let me know in the comments, do you agree, do you disagree? Whatever way, I'd love to hear from you. And if you're blending genres, let me know how you're doing it. Is it working for you? So if you found this useful, please like and subscribe. And if you want to read Ellen's story for free, head over to AKGuile.com and sign up. I'd love to know what you think of it. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.